Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be working on the gas in the bus. I'm kind of working backwards from here where my front heater is going to be. I'm not a plumber. I've never worked with gas before. I just got all the tools that I need. I did a bunch of research and hopefully this is going to work. I'm going to test all my fittings before anything lights up so I don't blow myself up. That's the last thing I want to do. This is a flexible gas line that I had to go to Home Depot and get adapters for in order for it to fit on here, and there's sealant, thread sealant on every connection that needs it. From here I'm going to be running the gas line down through that hole. There's going to be a flare fitting here on the end of this valve. It'll run down through that hole. It's going to come under the bus. The hose is going to come under the bus. It's going to cross somewhere over here and go to the water heater. There will be a T below the bus that'll run up to allow gas to run up there. And then I'm going to run the gas line further down to right here where we're going to put the stove. And that will just have some of the copper coming straight up right into the stove. And then it'll continue from another T that's down below the bus. Over here, there's going to be a hole that I drill up here through this wall. And then there will be another flexible hose line here. And then I'm going to have a little heater, little version of that one heater that's up there right here. So, and that should be all that I need my gas for. Okay, so we have the copper pipe for the gas run up through a hole down in the floor. It's covered in yellow plastic that you can peel back. So there's going to be copper here on this end, and then we just need to put a flare fitting on it, and then this connection should attach to it. Okay, so the copper tubing's coming up. I have my flare nut on. This is the first time I've ever done any kind of copper flaring. I had to watch a few YouTube videos and read the instructions a few times to make sure that I'm doing it right. But it's all in place now. So all I have to do is tighten this down and it should start flaring that bit of copper on the end. I'm trying to do it one-handed, which may not be the best idea for the first time ever doing it, but let's see if we do it. I'm tightening it in. The guy on the video said it should be like 2 turns. That's 1.5. Two. Okay. So now I'm going to back it out and we'll see what we did. Just pull this back. That looks like it'll do just nicely. Alright. So now I just have to attach that to this piece. And they say no goop necessary for these flare fittings. The flare that we just did right there is attached to this valve, which I can use to turn the gas on and off, which I like. Testing for leaks will have to come a little later, but happy with what I've got right now. So, moving on. I'm going to put a T right here because my water heater's right up here. So this is the gas line that's going to feed the water heater, but it's going to continue on after this over to where the stove is. First you got to put this flare nut on, then do what I was about to do. So I'm securing the pipe in the flare thing, so this will hold it in place, and then we'll tighten the top on, and that will create the flare at the end. There's our flare. The fitting goes on just like that. Alright, so I've managed to get gas run pretty much everywhere under the bus that needs to be run under the bus. There's a couple of things that are still left to do. I think I should note that I still don't have a propane tank. This is all in anticipation of getting a propane tank with a regulator. But to go over this real quick, this flexible line right here is for the water heater. Over here we've got the, this is for the stove, which was a real pain in the ass to run up in there. And then this is heading back toward the bedroom where we're gonna have another heater for the back area. And it also heads back to where the propane tank is gonna be. And then over here, we just head off that direction to get to the heater that's up in the front that was part of the first thing that I did. So I'm getting better at this flaring thing, but once we get the tank hooked up, we're going to have to do some checking to see if there are any leaks. With this connection, we'll pretty much be done with the stuff that's under the bus, so I won't have to crawl around my back too much more. So I'm excited about that because this was really hard and very frustrating to get the pipe run. The other thing that I need to do is tighten up all of the gas lines because they're just kind of dangling. They're all in place, but they need some support in here for when we're driving and it's getting bumpy and moving up and down the road so they don't chafe on anything. And, yeah. Tight, hopefully not too tight. I think that's good to go. Now let's go put the stove in and hook it up.
Have a stove.
So, trying to install the tank into here. I made some vents so that if there's ever propane that starts to leak in here, it goes out. It doesn't build up in here. This tank has attachments in the back that are going to be really hard to get in because of, you know, the tight spaces. So what I did is I made a template for the holes and pressed it up against the back, and then used a pencil to mark where those holes are going to be in the box. And so now I just have to drill out those holes, and then I'll be using bolts that are going to come through here out the back, and I'll hold them in the back and tighten them that way. So right now I got to drill the holes for the back. Okay, so I got the holes drilled in the back there that match up with these holes right here on the back of the tank. So now I have to go to the store and get bolts that'll work for this. Alright, so I got these carriage bolts that we're going to be using to mount the tank. They're really short, but that allows for the space that's between the back of the box and the chassis. I'm kind of wedging a bunch of wood in to kind of keep these in place as we push it into place, so that hopefully we can get all four of them in through the holes. in one go. So now we're going to lift this into place and try to line it up with those holes, and I hope that it works. Installing the tank was surprisingly easy, so I moved on to installing the pressure regulator and auxiliary tank connection. Try not to over tighten. Make sure it's nice and snug. Put this back a little bit. Okay. Feels good. So now I just got to get the last bit of tubing from here up into the bus to where the last heater is, and that's it. The gas is installed. It's done. All right, so the last thing we're doing is running this wire that comes down through the top right to my LP gas center. And the reason is so that I can read my LP gas from my meter that's inside the bus. So just need to attach the wires to this and run the wire to the sender. Calibration will have to happen later after I fill the tank for the first time. Okay, final connection is on. Everything is done, so I'm going to do a quick recap of what we did. Tank was the midpoint of the project. We started here. This is my main heater that is located in the living room. Got this connector that goes to the copper pipe via a flare fitting and an adapter so that I have a little gas switch shut off. Pipe runs down under to about here, where it cuts across to the other side of the bus, and then the pipe is routed across under the floor and comes up to right here where we've got the hot water heater, and it continues through a T that's not in the cabin itself, it's down under the bus, comes across this way to another T that comes up where you see that yellow pipe, which goes up through the cabinets all the way to here, to my stove. So the stove is connected. And then from that same T-fitting that's under there, under the sink, under the floor, comes around this way, cuts across right about here. Right about here. And then we've got the pipe box, or we have the tank box, which the hole is drilled right about there, comes over, and then the tank's right about there, and then the T-fitting's right here. So we have the gas that comes up this way, comes through right around to the back heater. Alright, so the last piece of the puzzle is this propane alarm, and it's also a carbon monoxide alarm. It has to go somewhere in the central kitchen area, which is where I'm sitting on the floor. Also right by my batteries, because this is hardwired, or it needs to be hardwired into my system. And so the best place that I was able to find is right down here. That's the entrance to my bathroom. This is the pocket door right about here. Just below the pocket door seems like a good spot for this thing. The only problem is there's a bunch of wall supports in here. The good thing is this piece of board is 3/4 of an inch thick, and this thing only needs 1 inch of space from the front to the back, so I would only be cutting in about that much with my router, which is the plan. So I am going to drill a hole for the wires that goes all the way through here, and then I'm going to be using my router to kind of carve out a space where this can go. Alright, so I wired it in, mounted it. It's blinking because it's got a 10-minute warm-up period before the carbon monoxide alarm is, I guess, like primed. It has like a self-cleaning mechanism or something in there. But it takes 10 minutes before it's actually up and running. But I tested it. Everything seems to be working fine. So that's all there is to it. Alright, today's an exciting day. The gas lines are all finished being installed. And so I'm going to be testing some of my gas components. So I've got my heater over there, another heater in the back, my hot water heater, which I'm not sure I'll be able to get to testing today, and my stove. I can't move the bus right now because it's not legal to drive. So I can't fill up my tank, nor do I really want to until I test all the connections. So I got this little hose that allows me to connect a 20-pound, just standard barbecue propane tank to my system. So I'm going to go hook that up now, and then we're going to test all of the connections. Okay, so this is the outlet for the tank, and then this is the regulator, and in between I have this little tee-off that allows me to plug other things into the line. So what I got to do is make sure that the tank is closed, and then I have this hose. It's got an inverted 1/4-inch male flare connection. Whoops. That connects right into here. And so this doesn't need any kind of like sealant tape. You should just be able to kind of screw it in there. And this is what the barbecue tank is going to attach to. So just kind of put it on. There's a wrench. Alright, not sure how full this is, but so just again making sure that this is closed so that the tank doesn't start trying to fill the other tank. It only goes one direction. Okay, so that should be it. So now I'm going to turn the gas on. Hopefully we don't explode. There's something going on. So I've got this test, this stuff that you use for testing seals. So you put this on the seal, and it's supposed to bubble up if there's a leak. So now we're going to go down the line. Just have to check all the connections to see if there's any gas. Also, my propane alarm is on, so if there's gas leaking inside, we should be able to hear it. Looks good. You can also use soapy water. So if, when I run, I'm gonna run out of this stuff, I know, but because this kind of came with some of the fittings that I got, so I'm just using because I have it. But soapy water is just as good. I don't see any bubbles, so let's move down the line. So here you see we've got a little bit of a leak, and I can actually see it coming from this top connection. So first I'm just going to try to tighten it, and then we'll see if we can, if that doesn't work, then we'll have to redo the connection. Nope, still going. So there's a little leak right there too. So got the soapy water that can make bubbles now. So I ran out of the other stuff, so I'm just putting some on. I'm looking for bubbles. Looks good. We're inside now, so I'm pouring it over these internal connections, which are very important because I don't want to blow up. I don't see any bubbles. Don't smell any gas. Hot water heater. Looks good. Looks good. Smells good. Ah, right there.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a little leak here. Still leaking. I think I'm gonna have to redo that connection. It's pretty good. Turn this on. Looks good. Okay, so because of that one line that's not in good shape, I have to close the tank and replace that fitting. So I'm going to redo that now. Okay, so all the connections are solid as far as I can tell. I went around and tested them again. I replaced that one that was leaking. And as far as I can tell, everything is sealed up nice and tight. So we're going to have an exciting moment here where we're going to try to turn on the stove. So the vent is on. So let's give this a shot. I hear gas. Look at that.
Woohoo!
Let's do the next one.
Ta-da.
And the last one. Turn the fan on. Okay, gas appliance number 2. We got the stove working, which is exciting. So let's see if we can get some heat. Oh, there we go. Oh, shit.
Ooh.
There we go. So now, how do we... I don't know exactly how this thing works.
So what's going on?
So we've got heat coming out of this heater. Feels good. It's very warm. You don't really feel it up above so much as out front,
That's good.
which is kind of how this is supposed to work. It doesn't heat the air around it. It heats kind of like the sun. The heat transfers through space until it hits something that it can radiate off of. So like people, walls, insulation, stuff like that. So it's a very, I don't know, it's comfortable heat that comes out of this thing.